Next on Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates, a fake landlord tries to evict a Metro Atlanta family.
Had it not been for that gate, we could have come home and all of our possessions would have been on the street.
Law enforcement agencies accused of ticketing for profit.
They were looking for easy targets.
An Amazon delivery gone wrong. AI-generated photos lead to romance scams.
I really let my family down.
Welcome to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates, as we reveal problems and solutions impacting our community.
First, houses stolen from Metro Atlanta families. Our ongoing investigation into deed thefts in Georgia uncovered another loophole. No one has to prove they own your home to file an eviction.
This is a story about how easily a wrongful eviction can happen to Georgia families.
I just don't understand how the whole thing can happen. I really don't.
How the whole thing happened to homeowner Sheila Gibson in just one moment. But first, let's get all caught up on the trend of stolen homes. For nearly a year, Atlanta News First Investigates revealed the progression of property fraud across the metro, all connected to deed theft.
Right now, we're in a crisis.
Thieves stealing the titles to homes. Old Georgia law made it possible. Under that state policy to file or transfer a deed on a house, no identification was required. Simply put, the state did not require anyone to actually prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on.
Sierra, honestly, I'm speechless. That's insane.
Here are some of the deed theft allegations we tracked.
Ultimately, we were credited for helping get a new state law passed, one that now requires proof for identification when filing deed paperwork. But since then, we've learned of a similar yet separate loophole when filing eviction paperwork. Turns out, no one has to prove they own the very property they're seeking an eviction on.
Okay, now you're all caught up. Sandy Springs' grandmother, Sheila Gibson.
It upsets me just to even talk about it because I feel so violated.
Violated because at any moment she feels she could be kicked out of her Sandy Springs house on Riverside Drive.
Although I'm not affluent, we kind of, did a lot of sacrificing to buy the house.
Real estate records show she's been the owner since 2020, paying
$480,000.
Okay.
She's the owner, yet when the 69-year-old pulled up to her driveway in December 2022, this sign was posted, scheduled to be evicted immediately by the Fulton County Marshal's Department. Magistrate court documents show deputies tried to execute the eviction once before in October too, but they were unable to gain access to the property. She has her faulty gate to thank.
Had it not been for that gate, we could have come home and all of our possessions would have been on the street.
The case, a complicated web of paperwork problems. The suspect, Michael James Brough. Michael filed paperwork in the Fulton County Clerk's office claiming he was the agent of the Sandy Springs home, that the occupants had past due rent of $12,000. But remember, Sheila owns her house. She does not owe anyone rent, records confirm. What's more, the suspect even filed more paperwork alleging he'd previously served an initial eviction notice months earlier, claiming the defendant's failure to file answer in court should grant him possession of the property. Sheila says it's all untrue.
To me, it's so crazy how someone can just walk into an office, provide no identification. No one bothers to check on the computers that are in the office to make sure this person actually owns the home, if they have title. Nothing was done.
The alleged fake landlord was able to file all this paperwork without having to prove anything because state law does not explicitly require it when initially filing for evictions. As long as those initial documents are completely filled out, county clerks like Shay Alexander must accept it.
They e-file it, so it's an electronic process. They could be at their kitchen table.
Wow.
And they send it to us. We look to see if it's in proper form.
And so there's not even like identification, like they don't have to submit an ID?
Not at all.
They don't have to show a deed that
any
they own the
proof,
property?
Nothing.
It's the honor system, and the way it's all set up, there's no way for anyone to submit proof. Additionally, Georgia clerks cannot investigate eviction documents or interrogate anyone who's filing them either. Only later would a judge or jury decide the facts of a case. Although so much remains at stake, current law limits the clerk's role.
So you understand the weight of the reality of these situations?
I understand. I am the clerk of Superior Court. I manage all documents for Fulton County. So you're talking about, it's not paper for me, it's people's lives.
After Sheila learned about the wrongful eviction proceeding against her family, she got Sandy Springs police involved.
Welcome to the zoo.
Hey, good morning.
Hi.
Officers filed the now criminal case as fraud, swindle, confidence game. Sheila then filed a civil suit against the suspect. The court ruled in her favor after suspect Michael James never responded.
For the property in Sandy Springs,
he did not respond to our attempts to reach him either. However, he's now appealing Sheila's civil court win. But why? It brings us back to that complex web. Public records suggest Michael James is possibly living in Fort Pierce, Florida, with the woman named Tabitha Coates. A previous 2009 unrelated civil suit identifies the pair as a couple. Fulton County public records reveal Tabitha once owned the Sandy Springs house in question. Michael also previously lived there. Back in 2018, the home was foreclosed and auctioned off after Tabitha failed to pay her mortgage loan. At that auction, an LLC won the highest bid, buying the home, then years later, selling it to Sheila. This case gets murkier. Sheila's attorneys allege in court filings that Tabitha went as far as recently forging a new deed, transferring the house's title back to herself. The problematic paperwork,
It's taken until I lost my hair.
not only disrupting Sheila's peace,
I don't sleep well. I'm anxious all the time.
but also exposing a loophole in the law.
This is like a criminal's paradise. If it's this easy, this is very easy what this guy's done.
Sandy Springs police officially charged Michael James Broff with perjury, filing false documents, and forgery, but they have not found or arrested him yet.
Georgia law allows cities to bolster their budgets with traffic tickets. Atlanta News First Investigates traveled to Alabama to learn how some states are addressing what legislators call policing for profit.
Alarming claims in the town of Brookside, allegations of illegal policing and racial profiling.
You want me to explain this to you?
Brookside's police chief resigned after allegations of improper and excessive traffic stops and policing.
They were literally being tossed out of their cars, on the street, vehicles taken, had to walk to safety.
We're gonna deal with this, brother. We're gonna deal with this. What's your name?
I think
What's your name?
they were looking for easy targets.
Alexis Thomas takes us back to the day she and her mother, Shakitha, were arrested by officers in Brookside, Alabama in 2022. Both sent to jail, both their cars towed and impounded, costing them thousands of dollars. Pulled over because her mother's car had a broken tag light.
What's going through your mind?
Oh my God, I was terrified. What is really going on here?
According to a pending class action lawsuit, the city allegedly deployed its police department not to protect the public, but to generate revenue, boosting its budget 640% with fines and forfeitures in 2 years, purchasing this armored vehicle and naming its department's canine Cash.
Something's not right.
Wandalyn Givan is a member of the Alabama House of Representatives, whose district includes Brookside. After receiving thousands of complaints, she helped pass a new state law 2 years ago capping the amount of traffic citation revenue cities can collect at 10% of their budgets. Ticket revenue generated above that sent to a state-run crime victims compensation fund. The legislation received bipartisan support in a Republican-led legislature.
I had law enforcement agencies literally calling me from across the state of Alabama and throughout the nation to say, listen, we're good cops. We're not bad cops. Those are bad cops.
300 miles away, ticketed drivers share similar outrage about a small police department in Lenox, Georgia, that generates even more revenue from traffic citations.
Like they were looking for charges to stack upon us.
It's crazy. I mean, they're pulling people over left and right.
It definitely seemed like he was coming after me. I was a cash cow.
An Atlanta News First investigation uncovered nearly 73% of Lenox's budget came from traffic fines in 2022. To put that in perspective, Brookside's fines and forfeitures made up around 49% of its budget before Alabama changed the law. While state law enforcement can revoke speed detection permits if it can prove cities are writing excessive speeding tickets for profit, Georgia does not cap the amount of revenue municipalities can collect from traffic citations.
To put it shortly, Georgia state laws incentivize municipalities to use their police departments and their code enforcers to police for profit and for taxation by citation.
Atlanta News first uncovered Lenox is among 17 cities in the state that rely on 25% or more of their budgets from traffic citation revenue. The majority in South Georgia, including Warwick, Morven, and Poland.
The tax base for rural Georgia is declining.
Attorney Tommy Coleman represents some of those South Georgia cities.
Cities and counties in Georgia and other places ought to be able to master of their own destiny. They ought to be able to control their own revenue. And
when you look at the numbers, do you think that this impacts trust in law enforcement?
Well, I'm sure it does for the people who've gotten the ticket.
They are supposed to protect us, serve and protect us.
Back in Brookside, Alabama, a judge dropped all of the charges against Jakeitha and her daughter, but the damage was already done.
It made me really, really not like the police. I'm just gonna be honest.
I'm nervous all the time.
I was finna say, every time I go anywhere, I'm nervous. I don't want, if a police get behind me, I instantly have to record.
A department accused of taking advantage of its authority, impacting trust in law enforcement, something Alabama lawmakers addressed to prevent from happening again.
Court date stay at the bottom.
While its neighboring state has yet to take action.
To find more on our Atlanta News First Investigate series, Taxation Through Citation, text TAX to 470-777-WANF.
Coming up, an Amazon delivery goes wrong. Atlanta News First Investigates exposes who's really coming down your driveway. Then, why flushing medicine down the drain could contaminate your water supply.
If you order a package from Amazon, you expect the blue truck pulling up with the Amazon logo to be who? Well, Amazon.
But an Atlanta News First investigation uncovered a program putting non-Amazon workers behind the wheel and liability in limbo.
Here comes Amazon Prime. Carport, dead ahead.
I heard just someone stepping on the gas in a large vehicle. So I asked my husband, I'm like, did you order something that's Amazon? They're coming really fast. And I'm like,
Mirabelle and Clifford Civil order lots of stuff from Amazon, but because they have a very steep driveway, the drivers usually stop below. Not this time.
It was like an earthquake.
What's the saying? Don't look back? What a disaster.
Give you more juice.
The Civils own a physical therapy practice.
More?
And Clifford ordered a new electronic therapy device called a TENS unit. It was just over $100, plus damages. The driver admitted to police that she was distracted. You think? When the towing company arrived, they realized that the only way out was the way the truck came in. Look at this. So they let the air out of the tires to gain clearance. How'd that go? Not so good. The couple says the estimated repairs are over $30,000 because there is structural damage to the roof, the post, and the retaining wall.
Our retaining wall has been cracked.
They filed an insurance claim, but even with the overwhelming evidence, Amazon rejected the claim because it did not make the delivery. In fact, Amazon doesn't own any of the delivery trucks that come to your door. In 2018, Amazon subcontracted the work to people who wanted to start their own business. It now has 3,500 direct service providers across the U.S., including the company that hit the Civils carport. They are required to have insurance. But when the civils filed a claim, they got this jaw-dropping response. The party responsible for damage to your property is not insured with us. Therefore, we must deny your claim.
We spend thousands of dollars on them. So for them to not take accountability and just not acknowledge that they were 100% in the wrong is quite, disappointing and really unprofessional.
The structural integrity of
the couple has been fighting this for more than a year. They even talked to an attorney who suggested contacting Atlanta News First.
And she said, you know what? I'm going to call Harry and see what can be done. I didn't know anything about that.
You do now?
I do now.
We sent the footage to Amazon Media Relations, and they couldn't believe it either. In light of the evidence, Amazon reopened its investigation and says it is working towards a resolution with the customer.
Amazon responded to Atlanta News First Investigates, thanking Harry for bringing this to their attention, and they apologized to the couple.
And on top of that, Amazon cut them a check to fix the damage to their home. You can go behind the scenes on all our investigations by listening to our podcast. Just search Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First wherever you get your podcasts.
When you want to get rid of old or unwanted prescriptions, what are you supposed to do? Many people think you're supposed to flush them down the toilet, but that can actually be dangerous. Studies have shown many prescriptions can pass through wastewater treatment plants and contaminate drinking water. A viewer reached out to us upset because he said his local pharmacy wouldn't take his old medications and he didn't know what else to do. So we investigated and found the FDA says the safest way to throw out prescriptions is through a drug take-back program, either an event hosted by a local agency or permanent drop-off locations. We made this map of every location you can take expired drugs to within a 75-mile radius of our news station in Atlanta. Keep in mind, just because it's a pharmacy doesn't mean they'll take them. Now, if you can't get to one of these locations, the FDA has a list of drugs they say can be flushed down the toilet, including some opioids like oxycodone and fentanyl, because the FDA wants you to get them out of your home as soon as possible. If the drug is not on the flush list, the FDA recommends you mix it with an unappealing substance like dirt or cat litter, then seal it in a plastic bag and throw it away. This includes things like antibiotics and painkillers. We have a full list of what you can and cannot flush, as well as the link to our interactive map that's on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. I'm Anastasia Olmos. Atlanta News First investigates.
Coming up, fake patriotic images luring Americans into a costly scam. How just one like could leave you vulnerable.
Fake photos of wounded soldiers on social media bait unsuspecting Americans to comment. That's when the fake generals come in. Our Atlanta News First investigation found overseas scammers using AI to take more than just your likes and comments. Soldiers finally coming home. Combat wounded troops asking for a birthday wish. These images draw tens of thousands of likes, comments, and shares on social media. A semi loaded with American flags. A jetliner full of heroes flying to a D-Day commemoration. But look closer at the veterans' hands. Their plane has no aisle, while those returning troops are in cars with only one seat. These images are all AI generated, and they flood pages with names like Proudly American. We discovered these patriotic Facebook pages have U.S. addresses that don't exist and are actually managed overseas in foreign countries. This is cyber warfare.
It is.
Douglas Frazier retired from the U.S. Air Force as a 4-star general.
Carry on, please.
But he can also be found responding to comments on these AI images, telling older women they're pretty.
It's fake. I'm not on Facebook.
Atlanta News First Investigates found multiple General Frazier clones on social media, claiming to be widowers looking for love. How many General Douglas Fraziers are on Facebook alone at any given time?
Well, my wife has recently checked, and she says right now there are 300 plus.
Impersonators of real U.S. generals appear all over the comments, many labeled government official. These generals directly ask widows to friend them.
That was my downfall right from the beginning, believing the first person that talked to me, that he loved me.
Jeannie Wasserman thought she had fallen in love with a military officer stationed in the Middle East. He told her he needed money for a chopper ride out of Syria. How much money did you end up sending him in total?
I think it comes out to $138,000. I really let my family down.
Atlanta News First Investigates obtained computer files labeled the Nigerian Scammers Playbook that we verified as authentic. Page after page of background stories, love letters, instructions on how to fake video calls, and copy and paste responses that allow a scammer to cultivate a manufactured romance one text at a time. You thought you were talking to your future husband. In reality, you were talking to a script.
Mm-hmm.
There's breaking the bank, and then there's breaking your heart.
Yeah, and both of that happened.
To know that foreign scammers, foreign operatives are using your name and likeness to victimize Americans.
Well, it's heart-wrenching to me, mainly because of the impact it has on individuals.
General Frazier swore an oath that his clones did not. All enemies, foreign or domestic. Now he's facing artificial patriots, fake generals, and real victims.
We got a call from a lady, her mom, if I remember right, had killed herself because she'd given her whole life savings, 200,000 euros, to these scammers.
We called several numbers victims told us their scammers used. Hi, this is Brendan Keefe. I'm an investigative reporter. We want to find out why you're scamming people, why you're pretending to be a military officer in the United States when you're actually overseas. The text reply, send gift cards, then I will give you the whole story. We don't pay for the truth, even when others have paid for the lies.
You can find more of our impactful investigations at atlantanewsfirst.com and on our app.
We do this for you, uncovering the truth and holding the powerful accountable. Thanks for watching Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates.